Hi, this is Ed Asner, and you're listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson along with Greg Airbar, welcoming you back to TV Confidential, radio talk show about television that is happy to say hello now to actress and author Joyce Bulifant. If you're like me and grew up watching daytime game shows, you know Joyce Bulifant for her many appearances on such classic shows as Password, Crosswits, Tattletales, To Tell the Truth, $25,000 Pyramid, and of course the CBS Match Game, not to mention her many starring roles and guest appearances on such primetime shows and movies as The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Love Thy Neighbor, The Bill Cosby Show, Perry Mason, the Tom, Dick, and Mary edition of 90 Bristol Court, Disney's The Happiest Millionaire, and of course, Airplane. Joyce Bulifant is also known for her buoyant personality and effervescent smile that she always showed to the public, both of which were hard to maintain sometimes in the face of her struggles with dyslexia and feelings of self-worth, not to mention a series of tumultuous marriages characterized by alcoholism, codependency, addictive behavior, and domestic abuse. Joyce shares her story in a new book, which we'll tell you all about in just a second. We began our conversation by telling Joyce, we were just talking before we called you, there's so many things about your story that, and just forget about the great entertainment stories, there's so many things about your story that resonate with the both of us and that resonate with anybody who will pick up a copy of your book and anybody who will be listening to our conversation.
That's very kind of you. I'm finding that out as I'm traveling. So many people come up to me and say, thank you for writing this, which makes me feel so good because that was the whole reason for writing it, is to help people hopefully know that you can be in bad situations and you can get out.
If I remember correctly, you mentioned near the very end of My Four Hollywood Husbands that you started writing this many years ago. When did you know that now was the time to release the book, release your child to the public?
That's a good question. It's because I just finished it.
Well,
it had many different births. The first book, when I started writing it, was called Home Sweet Home. Where is it? Because I'd lived so many different places, and like all people wanted to live in that little cottage with a picket fence and 2 children, and it would be happily ever after. But somebody said to me, boy, that sounds so serious. That's not like you at all. So then I said, oh, okay, maybe Don't Forget the Funny Bone, which is the one and only acting note that Helen Hayes ever gave me. And then years later, still kind of working on it, putting away, bringing it out, a friend called and said, I have the title for your book. And he was producer and a writer, and he told me, and I said, there is no way, Bruce, no way. That is so tacky. I would never name a book that. And then 2 weeks later, I was thinking about it, and I thought, yeah, My Four Hollywood Husbands, it might sell books. Okay, that's it. Then it took kind of a whole different turn as I was rewriting to talk more about alcoholism and codependency.
Yes. And look, two things, Joyce. One is I'm an author. Greg is an author. We both understand this, that when you release a book, you have to think in terms of, okay, what will grab people's attention? And a good title is just part of that. But when you decide, okay, I'm going to call it My Four Hollywood Husbands, it also speaks to an essential part of who you are. You have always been a very pragmatic person throughout your life.
I tried, I think. But most people who read it have said to me, wow, it's much deeper than I thought. They thought it was just going to be a bit of fluff, you know. And I hope I don't disappoint readers who feel that. They get a little bit of fluff.
Yes.
They get a little bit of entertainment. And then the serious side.
Yes. You give them just enough fluff to kind of, I mean, 'cause look, you've written for the stage, you've performed for the stage, you have rising action and falling action. I mean, that's the essence of drama. So it can't always be conflict, high note. You have to step back and let the audience settle, catch their breath a little bit. So you weave in enough anecdotes about your movie and TV and stage roles so that we can catch our breath as readers before we go back to the real life drama that you lived through and the discoveries that you made about yourself as a person along the way.
Right.
One of the things I didn't know is that you almost murdered Henry Fonda with Jello.
Isn't that awful?
Yes, but we're not going to tell that story, folks, because you got to pick up a copy. You got to pick up a copy. That is called a tease.
Is that a tease or what?
That is a tease.
That's a teaser.
Yeah, that is a tease. We're talking to Joyce Bulifant. Joyce just released her new book, which is the story of her life and career in the film and stage and television industry. It's also a story about eternal love that is woven through the fabric of the entertainment world. It's also, not to mention, a reminder of the hurtful actions that alcoholism, codependency, and addictive behavior have on ourselves, on other people, and most important of all, our children. Joyce's book, My Four Hollywood Husbands, is available through Amazon.com as well as JoyceBulifant.com. You can follow Joyce on Twitter at Joyce Bulifant as well as on Facebook, Facebook.com/Joyce Bulifant official. Now, two things. We've been talking about the titles of the book and the evolution of the titles and the fact that you've written for the stage, you've written for film. If you ever decide to make an adaptation of your book, you should call it Unsinkable. Because
I think you're right.
because not only does that, I mean, you are a survivor, you're resilient, you're a very, 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 very strong person, and of all the many roles you've played, on television and on Broadway and in the movies, Molly Brown is the one that resonates the most with you.
It really did. And also, along with all the other things, is I am very dyslexic, and I have my youngest son is also dyslexic. He's a writer and a director, and he went through terrible things, and I just grew up thinking I was stupid until I learned that I was dyslexic. And when I did that play, I did it in Kansas City for a whole summer, and when I sang, I'm going to learn to read and write, it had so much meaning to me. And I had seen Tammy Grimes do it in New York, standing at the back of the theater. There was standing room only, and I was a student at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And I thought, someday I am going to do that role. And I did, and I loved it. It was so much fun.
Do you remember what you were doing or what you were doing or where you were in your life when you learned that you were you did not learn that you were dyslexic until you were in your early 40s, if I remember correctly.
That's right. I remember it very well because I was sitting in front of the headmaster at a special school for children with dyslexia where my son was attending, and he looked at me and he said, "Joyce, did you ever have trouble in school?" And I said, "Me?" Yes. And I suddenly, in my mind, went right back to the time that I was a young girl, and my mother was trying to get me into boarding school, and the headmaster of that boarding school said to me, I was almost 13, I was 12, and he said, "What do you like to read? What books do you like to read?" Well, I didn't know how to read, and I had been just dancing around that in classrooms I found out how to do that. I went to so many different schools, but I thought to myself, I can't say I don't know how to read. So I said, I remembered when I was in 4th grade, a teacher read a Nancy Drew mystery to me. And I thought, to the whole class. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, that's what you can do when you read. You can have a story like that. I was just amazed. And so when he said, what do you like to read? I said, Nancy Drew mysteries. And my mother, I remember she kind of kicked my chair, and she said, you read that trash. And I wanted to say, I don't know how to read. But I knew that was not good, so I didn't say it.
Yeah.
And I told the headmaster that, and he said, well, watching you on Match Game and game shows that you do and things that you do around here, your whole demeanor, I think probably you're dyslexic. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. That answers it. And I think it's so important for children who are having trouble. It's so important to be tested and know that there is a different way. I never called it a disability.
Yeah.
It was a learning disability. To me, and I tried to coin this phrase as much as I could, it's called a learning difference.
Yeah.
It's a teaching disability, but a learning difference.
Right, because as you say, 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with your intellect or the child's intellect or ability or capability to learn, but it is...
Not at all.
Yeah.
My mom definition, and I've worked in the field of research, but my mom definition that I sort of gleaned from all my knowledge is that it is someone of average or above average who has difficulty learning in a traditional classroom setting. It's really as easy as that. You know, sometimes a child's mind is going 50 miles an hour. They're thinking differently. Taking an IQ test is almost impossible because when they give you a question, there's a train going so many miles, and then it stops here, and then it goes there, and it's how many miles was that? And a dyslexic's brain is thinking, well, if it's daytime, it'll be this answer. If it's nighttime, it'll be this answer. I mean, their mind just works differently.
We're talking to Joyce Bulifant. Joyce has devoted much of her life as executive vice president of the Dyslexia Foundation, where she campaigns for children's rights. She is also a former trustee of the Orton Dyslexia Foundation Board and is founder of the Dyslexia Awareness Program. Joyce's book, My 4 Hollywood Husbands, is available through Amazon.com as well as JoyceBulifant.com. We'll continue our conversation with Joyce after this quick time out here on TV Confidential.
Buying or selling a home can be one of the most stressful things we'll ever do in life, but it doesn't have to be. And no one knows better than our friends at Front Porch Realty Group. They're a community of realtors serving the Northern Bay Area of California that cares about their clients as individuals first and foremost. Whether you're a first-time buyer or looking to lease or sell your property in the Bay Area, Front Porch Realty Group will help you through this important transition by providing you with the right information for your situation while lessening the pain. They also work with a network of realtors throughout California who provide the same high caliber of customer service. Call Front Porch Realty Group at 415-886-7411 for a realtor referral near you. You can also visit their website, frontporchrealtygroup.com, for more information on the services they provide, including upcoming workshops and seminars. For more information, call 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com. Front Porch Realty Group. They'll find the solution that works best for you.
Missed a show? We have more than 250 archived editions of TV Confidential available as digital downloads. For more information, go to shop.tvconfidential.net, shop.tvconfidential.net. One more item, the holidays are soon upon us, and if you're a fan of the Carol Burnett Show, you'll definitely want to ring in the holidays with a brand new DVD single featuring 3 classic episodes straight from the vaults of television's landmark variety series. That would be Carol's Lost Christmas, available now wherever DVDs are sold through our friends at Time Life. Carol's Lost Christmas features 3 episodes that have not been seen in more than 40 years and includes such guest stars as Jonathan Winters as a boozy Santa Claus in Carol's first Christmas show from 1967, plus Carol's former co-star Gary Moore in a courtroom sketch written by Neil Simon that was originally performed on The Gary Moore Show. Other guest stars on Carol's Lost Christmas include Barbara Eden, Steve Lawrence, and Durwood Kirby, plus such classic sketches as The Old Folks, VIP, The Charwoman, and a whole lot more. 3 episodes on a single DVD, retail price $12.95. $12.95 for Carol's Lost Christmas, available now wherever DVDs are sold through our friends at Time Life. Ed Robertson here to tell you how you can get a free first ride with Uber, the mobile app that connects you with a ride at the touch of a button in just a matter of minutes. Uber has drivers in cities across the country and around the world, while payment is seamless and cashless. To download the app, go to uber.com and enter the promo code TV Confidential, all one word, and you will receive a free first ride up to $20. To sign up directly with the promo code included, go to get.uber.com/go/TV Confidential, get.uber.com/go/TV Confidential.
Hi, this is Rhonda Shear, and you're staying up all night or day with TV Confidential.
Bayum pum pum, bayum pum pum, bayum pum pum, bayum.
Ed Robertson and Greg Ehrbar, along with our guest Joyce Bulifant, the actress all of you know for her many appearances on such popular game shows as Match Game and Password, as well as her roles on such film, TV, and stage productions as The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Love Thy Neighbor, The Bill Cosby Show, Perry Mason, Alcoa Presents, Big John, Little John, Tom, Dick, and Mary, The Paisley Convertible, Auntie Mame, Tall Story, The Unsinkable Molly Brown, The Happiest Millionaire, and of course, Airplane. Joyce's book, My 4 Hollywood Husbands, is the story of her life and career, interwoven through the story of her marriages to James MacArthur, Edward Mallory, William Asher, and Roger Perry, as well as her relationships with Helen Hayes, the First Lady of the American Theater, not to mention the grandmother of 2 of Joyce's children, as well as Lillian Gish, whom Joyce calls her fairy godmother, Jack Weston, Jack Warden, and many others. My 4 Hollywood Husbands is available through Amazon.com as well as JoyceBulifant.com. You can follow Joyce on Twitter at Joyce Bulifant and at Facebook.com/Joyce Bulifant Official. If you're listening to us on 920 WON, Joyce Bulifant has several appearances coming up in November and early December. If you're listening to us on PWRN, Joyce also has several events lined up in Florida in December and beyond, including appearances in Tampa, Sarasota, Boca Grande, Minnesota Beach, and Fort Myers. To keep on top of all of Joyce's appearances, go to the events calendar page at JoyceBulifant.com. Greg?
Well, one of the things that I came away with having read the book was it was kind of the sun triumphing over the winds, if I can be metaphorical. My dad was what you'd call a nice guy, and my grandfather was a bully. And so he used to think of my father as weak. And to me, somebody who is nice but has great character and strength is, to me, that is strength. And there's a misconception nowadays, and I think it's turning around because of recent events in the entertainment industry. The idea of somebody being perceived as strong is actually not necessarily strong. And I think what you were proved in this story, that how you've endured through kindness and through quiet goodness and doing the right thing and just persevering, is that strength just comes from doing what you feel is right, helping others, just sticking it through, learning from the inside, learning what do I do, what's wrong with me, I can't change those people, how can I change myself, and letting them go and moving on. And that's what true strength is. It's not pushing hard.
That is so kind of you. That's so kind. I think my strength comes a lot from believing in a higher power and having a great faith. I mean, I don't think I did it by myself. I really feel my faith got me through a lot, especially as a little child in different foster homes, and also living in the world of imagination helped those things. And then as I got older, it was to never stop learning about how did I get into these situations, why did I get into them, and how do I get out of it gracefully as I can. That part's the hardest.
It is, because it is very tempting, and you're speaking to someone who has gone through this recently, Joyce. When you're married for, 8-9 years, and it doesn't work out, and the divorce is final, you go through a period where, okay, you're not ready to enter relationships or dip your toe in the water, and then you decide, okay, it's time to try that again. But even when you decide it's time to try that again, you have to be careful not to jump in and make the same mistakes you did before, because hopefully, and this is the challenge for all of us as people, as we grow older, we grow wiser. And we recognize things that may be warning signs that did not work before, or may lead us to places that we don't want to go to again. And you have to be very mindful of that, even as your clock is ticking, so to speak.
But it sure took me a long time, a lot of learning. I also thought if you went to bed with someone, you had to marry them.
Yes.
That just is not true.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Let's see. The name of the book, as we mentioned before, is My 4 Hollywood Husbands. But in a way, in a very fundamental way, Joyce, it is really the story of your relationship with your current husband, Hollywood husband number 4, Roger Perry. And I did not know this, and I'm sure people who read your book will learn this for the first time. You and Roger have known each other personally, professionally, as friends, as colleagues, as co-stars for more than 50 years.
Oh, yes. And it was really star-crossed lovers. It was amazing. He never left my heart. He was always there. But I had to push it down, because he had a drinking problem too. But he's been sober for 21 years.
Woohoo!
So and it's amazing when I'm speaking about the book and I'm out, people just burst into applause. And my children, they respect him so much for that. And his life, I prayerfully hope that it's been a very happy life, because it has been for me. We lived together. I didn't marry him right away. We lived together for 2 years, and then we were married 16 years ago.
As I was reading My 4 Hollywood Husbands, Joyce, and every time Roger would re-enter from the wings, so to speak,
Yes.
I kept thinking of the old Irish expression, which has become more meaningful to me in recent years, but it's the old saying, if it's for you, it will not move past you. And that was certainly the case with you and Roger.
Oh, I love that. It's for you. And there's a Jewish expression that my friends use called b'shert. I never say it. I better be careful. But it means it's meant to be. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's for you, it won't move past you. Say that again for me, please.
If it's for you, it will not move past you.
I like that.
Yes.
That's lovely.
The thing about Roger that comes across too is that, we should probably, if anyone's listening and hasn't seen the book and we want to count up the husbands, you've got James MacArthur from Hawaii Five-0 and several Disney movies.
Edward Mallory.
Edward Mallory, best known probably from Days of Our Lives. And
Bill Asher.
Then we've got Bill Asher, who, I'm sorry, to me, is Annette's director. and also Bewitched.
And Loose, and Loose.
No, but the thing that you see there is, and it varies in different degrees, because you had quite a long marriage to Bill Asher, but in most of the cases, it seems like with Roger especially, he seems to have tried the hardest to solve it. I mean, Bill didn't want to, and it was very sad that he didn't want to. Because,
it broke my heart.
Yeah, and it was almost mortally tragic with Ed, and Jim was like, he didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But in the case of Roger, he tried, and he's it's a struggle, and he's not perfect, but he tries, and that's really what any of us can do.
He calls himself the last husband standing. Everybody has died, and I think that, Bill lived a long, long life.
Yes, he did.
Which is lovely, and he had a lovely wife at the end of his life who took care of him, but he was in a wheelchair. The quality of his life was not good, and Ed died of not a good death, and Jimmy died of cirrhosis of the liver, but that was all hidden and hushed up. Nobody should know that. They said he died a natural death at age 72 or 3, and it was very sad and very hard for the children. And his children were very upset that the truth was not said, because they feel that can help people to know, if someone of Jim's stature as an actor, that he had the disease of alcoholism, and it killed him in the end because he couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
He really didn't want to. I gave the book to each of my children and my stepchildren, who are my children.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them the book to approve of what I was saying about their fathers, because if they disapproved of something, I certainly didn't want to print it, and they all approved.
We're talking to actress, author, and philanthropist Joyce Bulifant. Joyce's book, My 4 Hollywood Husbands, is the story of her life and career, which spans the worlds of film, television, and the Broadway stage, but it is also a story about eternal love that is woven through the fabric of the entertainment world, not to mention a reminder of the hurtful actions that alcoholism, codependency, and addictive behavior have on others, ourselves, and most important, our children. My 4 Hollywood Husbands is available through Amazon.com as well as JoyceBulifant.com. You can follow Joyce on Twitter at Joyce Bulifant and at Facebook.com/Joyce Bulifant Official. Before we leave the subject to Roger, 2 things. As it happens, I've been watching a lot of Roger's work as an actor recently. And
guess what? You know what? You could probably have a much fuller added 10 to 15 minutes, because Roger's here.
Oh.
Maybe I could get him to talk to you.
That would be great.
That would be awesome.
Hold on, now you can ask him what he thinks about the book. He's the star of the book.
He is the star of the book.
Do you mind saying a few words to these fellows? Here he is, Roger Perry.
Roger, what a special added treat. Thank you for joining us as being part of our conversation with Joyce.
Oh, you're welcome. I wasn't doing anything. I was watching the dreaded news. As Joyce said. So I'm sort of glad for the break.
I was telling Joyce that one of the fun things about reading her book is learning about you. I mean, I happen to be watching a lot of you because I'm working on the book on Quinn Martin and the FBI.
Yes.
You did a lot of those. And,
yes.
and you played different characters in all of those. And so I appreciated your depth as an actor. I had no idea what a skilled playwright and songwriter you were. So it was fun to discover that.
Yeah, thank you. Now, before you leave Quinn Martin, of which I haven't received any residuals, by the way. Oh, but nothing. But this is what happened, because Quinn happened to like me as an actor, so that was right. I think I did a 12 O'Clock High was the first show I did for him. But then he got a letter from the Anti-Defamation, the Italian Anti-Defamation League, saying, "Hey, all these guys, all these killers on your shows, they're all Italian. Come on, we're not all killers. We're not all bad guys." Well, he took it to heart. So he started to cast me in some of those roles. I got to kill people and shoot them and yell at them and so forth. So that's why it worked so much. He was doing away the stereotype that had been established on all his shows. So and he did me a hell of a favor by changing his mind about that. Yeah.
Oh, and I know this because I've been fortunate to talk to a number of actors, such as yourself, who Quinn or John Conwell or his various casting people put in almost all of their shows. And for a working actor, unless you have a series, you go from job to job and you're not sure what you're going to be doing next week. Exactly. To be part of Quinn Martin's radar, especially when he had all those shows on the air, you were guaranteed like about 10 or 12 gigs a year.
Yes, exactly. As I say, it was terrific. I'll always be grateful to him for that. And they were good shows to do too. The scripts were good, the actors were good, the directors were all good. It was just a nice relationship. It really was. My only regret is I did a pilot with Carl Betts, and it was called Crisis Clinic, and what it was emergency.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know this in any part of the entertainment industry, imitation is the sincerest part of flattery. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have any memories of working with Ephraim Zimbalist? Because I know every now and then, I mean, even though like when you played the villain on the FBI. You mean Ephraim and Bill Reynolds? They were, you didn't always have chances to share camera time, but every now and then, if you played, because you didn't always play the bad guy in the sometimes you played an ordinary person who was caught up in circumstances, and then you would have scenes with Zimbalist. Do you have any memories of working with Ephraim Zimbalist?
The only memory I have is, and I think everybody will tell you this, that Ephraim is one of those Hollywood actors that is just the nicest person you'd ever want to meet. Bill Reynolds was also very nice. That show was a pleasure to work on. But Ephraim, he is just one of those, one of a kind. He really is. You don't find that very often.
And you're certainly one of a kind, Roger Perry. I mean, as I said, a very, very, very talented actor and songwriter and playwright. And as Joyce herself said, Roger Perry is the star of Joyce's book, My Four Hollywood Husbands, which is available at Amazon.com. You can also find it at JoyceBulifant.com.
I just wanted to ask about reminiscing about that very famous Star Trek episode. You got to stand in the transporter, and that was a very, very memorable episode. Can you kind of walk us through what that experience was like?
Well, yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I heard later that was one of Gene Roddenberry's favorite shows because he thought that represented his idea of Star Trek, with the time warp, going back in time, trying to fix things. He thought that was one of his best scripts. And I hate to say this, but it's the only time in my life that I was called up to audition, and I walked in, the secretary was there, she said, go right in. I went right in, and the director was there, he said, sit down. We talked for about a minute. He said, okay, I'll see you Monday. And that's how easy it was to get that part. Of course, that never happened before, again. But it was nice while it lasted.
Yeah. Every now and then you have a moment like that where everything comes together.
Everything works, exactly. Yeah. And that was one of them. Yeah. And I love the Star Trek. I love the show.
Whenever I have a chance to talk to a songwriter, I have to ask the question, for you, what comes first, the lyric, the melody, or does it depend on what you're working on?
The lyric. I always wait for the lyric. Even with Joyce, she gives me the lyric, and I sit down and I try to get a tune doing it. It's always been the way I worked. Even in college, I had a friend of mine, Jim Ploss, who wrote really good lyrics, and I just put music to him, and that was it. So that's the way I work.
When you write for the stage, and I'm not just talking about the music, I'm talking about the characters as well. I mean, does it help to have a certain actor in mind, or do you focus on telling the best story you can for the form and leave decisions like casting later?
I think you're right. I tend to say, well, maybe we think of an actor. But I don't really remember that. I don't remember my saying, well, we'll base this character on this actor. No, I don't remember that. Well, first of all, we did an adaptation of a George Bernard Shaw play, so that took care of that. That was already written. But no, you have the idea, you have the character, and you write for the character. Well,
we could spend an hour just talking about music alone because I'm musically illiterate. I envy people who have your gift.
Thank you.
Yeah, I always appreciate the opportunity to talk to someone like yourself.
Well, Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
As we mentioned, Roger Perry is the star of Joyce Bulifant's book, My Four Hollywood Husbands, which is available Amazon.com as well as JoyceBulifant.com. And Joyce's husband number 4, the last husband standing, Roger Perry, is kind enough to join us as part of our conversation with Joyce.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You want to talk to Joyce?
Please.
Here she is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here's Joyce.
See, you got 2 for 1.
2 for 1. What a bonus.
Wow.
That is awesome. That is awesome. All right, Greg, since you're my point man on all things Disney, you want to ask Joyce about The Happiest Millionaire?
Yeah.
First of all, I have to share with the listeners that I was at a event called the D23 Expo earlier this year. And I don't know if you know this or not, but you were speaking on a panel with Leslie Ann Warren and Carol Carruthers, who's a good friend of yours.
Right.
And her husband wrote The Happiest Millionaire screenplay. And Richard Sherman was there. It was quite an event, Jeffrey Sherman. And it was very exciting because those of us who love the movie, it's the 50th anniversary of the musical. And it's sort of Walt Disney's My Fair Lady, kind of.
Yes, yes.
It's a lovely film, lavish, big, great costumes and stuff.
You don't know. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
No.
No, this is the Joyce Bulifant show.
We're doing it in New York. We're doing a concert version of The Happiest Millionaire for Equity AIDS as a benefit.
Oh, okay.
Just reading something about that. What exactly is that? Will you be singing?
Yes, but Leslie Ann and I are going to do Bayum Pum Pum with a full orchestra.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that fun?
That is coming up December 3rd in New York, if I have...
That's right. Oh, you know about it.
Yes. Well,
that's right.
Well, Joyce, I know about it because I read the events page at JoyceBulifant.com.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know it was there. It's very nice. That's very
I would
nice.
imagine that's... If it's Broadway... Is it BroadwayCares.org that's selling the... probably selling the tickets?
It's at Joe's Pub in New York.
Oh, that's so cool. That's
Isn't that
really
fun?
nice.
I interrupted your story, though.
No.
No?
Well, I'm gonna preface the story that I hope that you'll tell. But you told this wonderful story about Walt Disney, and that this was on I think a Friday night, and the next morning the Walt Disney Company has this big motion picture presentation where all these movie stars come out, and Bob Iger's there, and all these movie stars are coming out and parading around, and they're all like big movie stars, and they had the big Marvel thing. There's like 30 Marvel. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. and all the Chris's, and all that, and they're all on the stage, and everybody's clapping and all. And as I'm leaving, the crowd is leaving the theater. They weren't talking about seeing all those big stars. I overheard people talking about Joyce Bulifant and the story she told the night before. And I'm saying, did you hear what she said? Now they had just seen the A-list of Hollywood, but they're talking about you. And so what I would love for you to tell the story that had everybody buzzing at this gigantic convention.
Well, it was a little scary when it happened. What I said was talking about Walt Disney personally, what he was like. And I said the day that I was going to go record Bayum Pum Pum, I was scared to death, and I was walking down one of the Disney streets, and all of a sudden Walt Disney came out of his office and down the pathway, and he said, well, young lady, you going to record? And I said, yes, sir, I am. I always called him Mr. Disney because I really respected him. Other people called him Walt and or Uncle Walt, but I was always Mr. Disney. And he walked along with me, and I said, I'm so nervous, I'm so scared. And he said, oh, don't be. And he said, I just want you to know, little lady, I have big plans for you. And then he died. Well, when I told that, the 4,000 people in the audience, they were just quiet.
Yeah.
all of a sudden, this laughter started that I thought was never going to stop.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they just were going on and on and on, and I thought, but for a moment, I thought, oh no, they think that I'm being sacrilegious about Walt Disney. But I wasn't. I was just telling the truth.
Yeah.
It was the comic timing.
Yeah.
Why I laughed.
Yeah,
because of the way you told it.
You had to be there. It was one of those.
For those who haven't seen the movie, or haven't seen it lately, The Happiest Millionaire is a long 60s, one of those roadshow musicals they used to call them, and it's about 2.5 hours long, and it's filled with big stars, and each one of them is a scene stealer. But to me, Joyce kind of steals the first half, and Geraldine Page steals the second half.
Oh, wasn't she so funny? That's very kind of you. But wasn't she hysterical? She was so funny. In the scene where Fred McMurray is trying to sing, her expressions I could watch that scene over and over. You know what? You all have been so kind, and I'm looking at the clock, and I'm supposed to be someplace at 4 o'clock.
Well,
and I should probably say goodbye.
Well, I hope it's goodbye for now, but I hope one day you'll join us again on our show, Joyce.
I would love to, and you're very kind. Thank you for asking me and for talking about the book so nicely.
Maybe when you write, direct, and star in the musical version of your book, then, when Roger writes the songs, there you go.
Roger and I wrote a musical together. It was really fun.
That's right.
We've done it.
That's right.
It was fun. Well, I think it's so kind of you all to ask me to be on the show and read my book and be interested, and I thank you very much.
My 4 Hollywood Husbands is available through Amazon.com as well as JoyceBulifant.com. You can follow Joyce on Twitter at Joyce Bulifant and at Facebook.com/Joyce Bulifant Official.